Hello. I hope you can hear me. I'm in a different position, as always, moving around, changing things up, actually turning up for once. So I hope you can hear me. Hello, hello. Welcome back to. Yes, it is Monday. Monday Night Moods. We are back on Monday. I apologise. I've been away for 2 weeks. Uh, well, I've not been away. I've just not been doing this for 2 weeks. The first one was Independence Day here in Mexico, and so went off and actually saw some things for Independence Day. Wasn't that interesting? Just lots of military parades, big guns, trucks with big guns, and people with big guns. All very strange being British and seeing people with massive guns walking the streets. Um, and then last week we had a hurricane. Didn't have it here so much. It kind of came, kind of went, kind of came, kind of went. Was a hurricane, wasn't a hurricane, was a hurricane. It's all very strange. Hurricane Juan, hit the west coast of Mexico, and we got a lot of fucking rain here. The lakes near here burst their banks and have flooded half the city, which is still having problems with that now. But yeah, Monday I had no power, so I could have done it during the rest of the week, but I had other plans because I'm now getting busy during the rest of the week. Anyway, enough of that. So yeah, I apologise for not being around. I'm back now. I hope for the next 3 episodes where we finish off Dante's Purgatory. Yeah, we've got 3 episodes left, I hope, if I get to reading it quickly. I also, because of all of other things, I didn't manage to record or plan the next podcast episode. I wrote that yesterday, so it is written. It is not recorded or edited yet. But that's all on magic, because this season's all on magic. So we shall enjoy that. Apparently I've just joined the chat room twice. I'm hoping this is all okay. We'll see. Whatever. Whatever. Shall we get on with it? Yeah, let's just get on with it. So I'm not sat here for too long, boring you. Someone's cheering and clapping outside. Today, more holidays. Today was Morelos Day, day of celebration for the founder of Morelia, the city in which I live in. So there might be fireworks going off outside at some point soon. And tomorrow is a national holiday because it's the changing of the government. They have a holiday when the government changes. So the lady who won the election in June, I want to say maybe July, I can't remember when it was, is being signed in tomorrow, and it's a holiday. But I'm going to work from home because I need to do some work. So yes, anyway, not that you needed to know any of that. So if I get distracted at any point, it's probably because there's fireworks going off outside. Bang, boom. They'll be over at the cathedral, which you can't actually see from my apartment. Anyway, let's get on with it. Sit back, grab yourself a drink, got me a big bottle of Coke, or Pepsi, not sponsored. If Pepsi wants to sponsor me, that'd be amazing, but it's never going to happen. Grab yourself a drink, sit back, relax, and enjoy the tale. Canto 16. Hell's done his gloom, or night you unlustrous dark, of every plain's reft and pallid in clouds, did never spread before the sight avail, in thickness like that fog, nor to sense so palpable and gross, entering its shade, mine eyne endured, not with unclose lids, which marking near me drew faithful guide, offering me with his shoulder for a stay. As the blind man behind his leader walks, lest he should err or stumble unawares, on what might harm him, or perhaps destroy, I journeyed through the bitter air and found, still listening to my escort's warning voice. Look, that from me thou part not, straight I heard, voices, and each one seemed to pray for peace, and for compassion to the Lamb of God that taketh sins away. Their prelude still was Agnus Dei, and through all the choir one voice, one measure ran, that perfect seemed the concord of their song. "Are these I hear spirits, O master?" I exclaimed, and he, "Thou aim'st right. These loose the bonds of wrath. Now who art thou, that through our smoke dost cleave, and speakest of us as thou as thou thyself even yet dividest time by calends?" So one voice bespake me, whence my master said, "Reply, and ask if upward hence the passage lead." O being, who dost make thee pure to stand, beautiful once more in thy Maker's sight, along with me, and thou shalt hear and wonder. Thus I, whereto the Spirit answering spoke, long as it is lawful for me, shall my steps follow on thine, and since the cloudy smoke forbids the seeing, hearing in its stead shall keep us joined. I then forthwith began. Yet in my mortal swathing I ascend to higher regions, and am hither come through the fearful agony of hell. And if so largely God hath doled his grace, that clean beside all modern precedent, he wills me to behold his kingly state. From me conceal not who thou wast ere death had loosed thee, but instruct me, and instruct if I rightly to pass thy tend, thy words thy way directing as a safe escort. I was of Lombardy, and Marco called, not inexperienced of the world, that worth I still affected, from which all have turned, the nevertheless bow aside. Thy course tends right unto the summit, and replying thus, he added, I beseech thee, pray for me, when thou shalt come aloft. And I to him, accept my faithful pledge, I will perform what thou requirest. Yet one doubt remains, that wrings me sorely. If I solve it, singly before it urged me, doubled now by thine opinion, when I couple that with one elsewhere declared, each strengthening other, the world indeed is even so forlorn, of all good as thou speakest, it and so swarms with every evil. Yet, beseech thee, point the curse out to me, that myself may see, and unto others shew it. For in heaven one places it, and one on earth below. Then heaving forth a deep and audible sigh, Brother, he thus began, the world is blind, and thou in truth comest from it. Ye who live do so each cause refer to heaven above, even as its motion of necessity drew with it all that moves. If this were so, free choice in you were none, nor justice would, there should be joy for virtue, woe for ill. Your movements have their primal bent from heaven. Not all, yet said I all, what then ensues? Light have ye still to follow evil or good, and of the will free power, which if it stand firm unwearied in heaven's first essay, conquerors at last, so it be cherished well, triumphant over all. To mightier force, to better nature, ye abide, free, not constrained by that, which forms in you the reasoning mind uninfluenced of the stars. If then the present race of mankind err, seek in yourself the cause, and find it there. Herein thou shalt confess me no false spy. Forth from his plastic hand, who charmed beholds her image, ere she yet exists, the soul comes like a babe, at wanton sportively weeping and laughing in its wayward moods, as artless and as ignorant of aught, save that her Maker being one who dwells with gladness ever, willingly she turns to whatever yields her joy. Oh, some slight good the favour soon tastes, and snarled by that with fondness she pursues it, if no guide recall, no rein direct her wandering course, hence it behoved the law should be a curb. A sovereign hence behoved, whose piercing view might mark at least the fortress and main tower of a true city, Laws indeed there are, but who is he observes them? None, not he who goes before, the shepherd of the flock, who chews the cud but doth not cleave the hoof. Therefore the multitude, who see their guide, strike at the very good they covet most. Feed there and look no further. Thus the cause is not corrupted nature in yourselves, but ill conducting that hath turned the world to evil. Rome that turned it unto good, was wont to boast 2 suns with several beams casting light on either way. The worlds and gods once hath quenched the other, and the sword is grafted on the crook. And so conjoined, each must perforce decline to worse, unawed by fear of other. If thou doubt me, mark the blade. Each herb is judged of by its seed. That land through which Adige and the Po their waters roll was once the residence of courtesy and valour, ere the day that frowned on Frederick, not secure, now secure, may pass those limits. Whosoever hath left, for shame, to talk with good men or come near their haunts, 3 aged ones I still yet found there, in whom the old times chide the new. These deem it long ere God restore them to a better world. The good Gerardo of Palazzo, he Conrad and Guido of Castello, named in Gaelic phrase more fitly than plain Lombard. On this at last conclude the Church of Rome, mixing 2 governments that ill assorted, hath missed her footing, fallen into the mire, and there herself unburdened much defiled. O Marco, I replied, shine arguments convince me, and cause I now discern, why of the heritage no portion came to Levi's offspring, but resolve me this, who that Gerardo is, that thou sayest is left as simple of the perished race, and for rebuke to his untoward age. Either thy words, said he, deceive, or else are meant to try me, that thou, speaking Tuscan, appearest not to have heard of good Gerardo, the sole addition that, by which I know him, unless I borrowed from his daughter Gaia another name to grace him. God be with you, I bear you company no more. Behold, the dawn with white ray glimmering through the mist. I must away. The angels come, ere he appear. He said, O would not hear me more. Canto 17. Call to remembrance, reader, if thou ever hast on a mountain top been taken by cloud, through which thou sawest no better than the mole, doth through opacous membrane. Then, whene'er that watery vapours dense began to melt into thin air, how faintly the sun's sphere seemed wading through them, so thy nimble thought may image how at first I beheld that sun, that bedward now his couch e'er hung. Thus why my leader's feet still equalling pace, from forth that cloud I came, when now expired the parting beams from off the nether shores. O quick and forgettive power, that sometimes dost so rob us of ourselves, we take no mark, through round about us 1,000 trumpets clang. What moves thee, if the senses stir not? Light kindled in heaven spontaneous, self-informed, or likely a gliding down with swift elapse by will divine, portrayed phone vibrating. Never shout. Where the hell was I? Or likely a gliding down with swift elapse by will divine, portrayed before me came the traces of her dying piety, whose form was changed into the bird that most delights itself in song. And here my mind was inwardly so rapt, gave no place to aught that asked admittance from without. Next showered into my fantasy a shape, as one crucified, whose visage spake fell rancour, malice deep within wherein he died, and round him Assuerus the great king, Esther his bride, and Mordecai the just, blameless in word and deed. As of itself that unsubstantial coinage of the brain burst like a bubble, which the waterfall fails that fed it. In my vision straight uprose a damsel weeping loud, and cried, O queen, O mother, wherefore hast intemperate ear driven thee to loathe thy being? Not to lose Lavinia, desperate thou hast slain thyself. Now hast thou lost me. I am she whose tears mourn ere I fall a mother's timeless end. Even as the sleep breaks off, if suddenly new radiance strike upon the closed lids, the broken slumber quivering ere it dies. Thus from before me sunk the imagery vanishing, soon as on my face there struck the light, outshining far our earthly beam. As round I turned me to survey what place I had arrived at. Here ye mount, exclaimed a voice. That other place, that other purpose left me none, save will so eager to behold, who spake. I could not choose but gaze, as for the sun that weighs our vision down and veils from his form in light transcendent. Thus my virtue failed unequal. This is spirit from above, who marshals us our upward way, unsought, and in his own light shrouds him. As a man doth for himself, so now is done for us. For whoso waits imploring, yet sees need of his prompt aidance, sets himself prepared for blunt denial, ere the suit be made. Refuse we not to lend a ready foot at such inviting, hast we to ascend before it darken, for we may not then till morn again return. So spake my guide. And to one ladder doth address our steps, and the first stairs approaching I perceived near me, as 'twere the wavering of a wing, that fanned my face and whispered, Blessed they the peacemakers, they know not evil wrath. Not to such height above our heads were raised, the last beams followed close by hooded night, to many a star on all sides through the gloom shone out. Why partest from me, O my strength? So with myself I communed, for I felt my overtoiled sinews slacken. We had reached the summit, and were fixed like to a bark, arrived at land, and waiting a short space. If aught should meet mine ear in that new round, then my guide I turned and said, Loved sire, declare what guilt is on this circle purged. If our feet rest, no need thy speech should pause. He thus to me, the love of good, whatever wanted of just proportion, here fulfills, here plies afresh the oar that loitered ill, but that thou mayest yet clearlier understand. Give ear unto my words, and thou shalt cull some fruit, may please thee well from this delay. Creator, nor created being, ne'er my son, he thus began, was without love or natural all the free spirit's growth. Thou hast not that to learn. The nature still is without error, but the other swerves, if on ill object bent, or through excess of vigour or defect. While error it seeks the primal blessings, or which measure due, the inferior, no delight that flows from it, partakes of ill. But let it warp to evil, or with more adure than behooves, or less pursue the good. The thing created then works against its maker, hence thou must infer that love is germane of each virtue in ye, and of each act no less that merits pain. Now since it may not be but love intend the welfare mainly of the thing it loves, all from self-hatred are secure, and since no being can be thought to exist apart and independent of the first, a bar of equal force restrains from hating that. Grant the distinction just, and it remains, the evil must be another's, which is love. 3 ways such love is gendered in your clay. There is who hopes his neighbour's worth depressed, preeminence himself, and covets hence for his own greatness that another fall. There is who so much fears the loss of power, fame, favour, glory, should his fellow mount above him, and so sickness at the thought he loves their opposite. And there he is, whom wrong or insult seems to gall and shame, that he doth thirst for vengeance, and such needs must dote on others' evil. Here beneath this threefold love is mourned. Of the other sort be now instructed, that which follows good, but with disordered and irregular course, and indistinctly apprehend a bliss, on which the soul may rest, the hearts of all yearn after it, and to that wished born all therefore strive to tend. If ye behold or seek it with a love remiss and lax, this cornice after just repenting lays its penal torment on ye. Other good there is, where man finds not his happiness, if it is not true fruition, not that blessed essence of every good, the branch and root. The love too lavishly bestowed on this, along three circles over us is mourned. Account of that division tripartite, expect not, fitter for thine own research. Canto 18. The teacher ended, and his high discourse concluded. Earnest in my looks inquired if I appeared content, and I, whom still unsated thirst to hear him urged, was mute. Mute outwardly, yet inwardly I said, perchance my too much questioning offends. But he, true father, marked the secret wish by confidence restrained, and speaking, gave me boldness to thus speak. Master, my sight gathers so lively virtue from thy beams, that all thy words convey distinct is seen. Wherefore I pray thee, father, whom his heart holds dearest, thou wouldst deign by proof t'unfold that love from which, as from the source, thou bringest all good deeds and their opposite. He then, to what I now disclose, be thy clear ken directed, and thou plainly shalt behold how much those blind have erred who makes themselves the guides of men. The soul, created apt to love, moves versatile, which way soever aught pleasing prompts her, soon as she is waked by pleasure into act. Of substance true, your apprehension forms its counterfeit, and in you the ideal shape presenting attracts the soul's regard. If she, thus drawn incline toward it, love is that inclining, and a new nature knit by pleasure in ye, then, as the fire points up and mounting seeks his birthplace and the lasting seat, even thus enters the captive soul into desire, which is a spiritual motion that never rests before enjoyment of the things it loves. Enough to show thee how the truth from those is hidden, who of all love a thing praiseworthy in itself, although perhaps its substance seems still good, yet if the wax be good, it follows not the impression must. What love is, I returned, thy words, O guide, and my own docile mind reveal. Yet thence new doubts have sprung, for from without if love be offered to us, and the spirit knows no other footing, tends she right or wrong, is no desert of hers. He answering thus, what reason here discovers I have power to show thee, that which lies beyond expect from Beatrice? Faith not reason's tasked, spirit, substantial form, with matter joined, not in confusion mixed, hath in itself specific virtue of that union born, which is not felt except at work, nor proved but through effect, as vegetable life by the green leaf, from whence his intellect deduced its primal notices of things man therefore knows not, or his appetites their first affections. Such in you, a zeal in bees to gather honey at the first volition, meriting nor blame nor praise, but over each lower faculty supreme, that as the lists are summoned to her bar, he hath that virtue in you, whose just voice uttereth counsel, and whose word should keep the threshold of assent. Here is the source whence cause of merit is in you is derived. Even the affections, good or ill, she takes or severs windowed as the chaff. Those men whose reasoning went to depth profundest marked that innate freedom, and were thence induced to leave their moral teaching to the world. Grant then that from necessity arise all love that glows within you, to dismiss or harbour it. The power is in yourselves. Remember, Beatrice in her style denominates free choice by eminence the noble virtue. If in talk with thee such touch upon that theme, the moon well nigh to midnight hour belated, made the stars appear to wink and fade, and her broad disk seemed like a crag on fire. As up the vault that course she journeyed, what the sun then warms, when they of Rome beheld him at his set, betwixt Sardinia and the Corsic Isles. And now the weight that hung upon my thought was lightened by the aid of that clear spirit, who raiseth Andes above Mantua's name. I therefore, when my questions had obtained solution plain and ample, stood as one musing in dreary slumber, but not long slumbered, for suddenly a multitude, the steep already turning from behind, rushed on with fury and like random rout, as echoing on their shores at midnight heard Ismenus and Asposus from his Thebes. If Bacchus's help were needed, so came these tumultuous, curving each his rapid step, by eagerness impelled of holy love. Soon they overtook us, with such swiftness moved the mighty crowd. Two spirits at the head cried weeping, Blessed Mary sought with haste the hilly region. Caesar to subdue Iridia darted in Marseille his sting, and flew to Spain. Oh, tarry not, away! The others shouted. Let not home be lost through slackness of affection. Hearty zeal to serve reanimates celestial grace. O ye in whom intenser fervorance happily supplies, where lukewarm erst yet ye failed, slow or neglectful, to absolve your part of good and virtuous, this man who yet lives. Credit my tale, though strange, desired to ascend, so morning rise to light us. Therefore say, which hand leads nearest to be rifted rock? So spake my guide, to whom a shade returned. Come after us, and thou shalt find the cleft. We may not linger, such resistless will speeds our unwearied course. Vouchsafe us then thy pardon, if our duty seemed to thee discourteous rudeness. In Verona I was abbot of San Zeno, when the hand of Barbarossa grasped imperial sway. That name never uttered without tears in Milan, and there is he, hath one foot in his grave, who for that monastery ere long shall weep, ruining his power misused for that his son, of body ill compact and worse in mind, and born in evil he hath set in place of its true pastor. Whatever more he spoke, or here was mute, I know not. He had sped even now so far beyond us, yet thus much I heard, and I remembranced, treasured it. He then, who never failed me at my need, cried, Hither turn. Lo, two with sharp remorse chiding their sin, in rear of all the troop, these shouted. First they died to whom the sea opened, or over Jordan saw his heirs, and they, who with Anasius to the end endured, not suffering, for their portion chose life without glory. Soon as they had fled, past reach of sight, new thought within me rose, by others followed fast, and each unlike its fellow, till led on from thought to thought, and pleasured with the fleeting train, mine eye was closed, and meditation changed to dream. Slept time. Disappointed, no fireworks yet. Canto 19. It was the hour when of diurnal heat no reliquaries chafe the cold beams of the moon, overpoured by earth or planetary sway of Saturn, and the geomancer sees his great fortune up the east ascend, where grey dawn checkers first the shadowy cone, when for me in my dream a woman's shape there came with lips that stammered, eyes aslant, distorted feet, hands maimed and colour pale. I looked upon her, and as sunshine cheers limbs numbed by nightly cold, even thus my look unloosed her tongue. Next in brief space her form decrepit raced erect, and faded faced with love's own hue illumed. Recovering speech, she forthwith warbling such a strain began, that I, how loth soever, could scarce have held attention from the song. Thus she began, I am the siren, she who mariners on the wide sea or wider, when they hear such fullness of delight that listeners feels. I from his course Ulysses by my lay enchanted drew. Whoever frequents me once parts seldom, so I charm him in his heart. Contended knows no void, or ere her mouth was closed, to shame her at her side appeared a dame of semblance holy. With stern voice she uttered, Say, O Virgil, who is this? Which hearing he approached with eyes still bent toward that godly presence. The other seized her, and her robes tearing, opened her before, and showed the belly to me, whence a smell exhaling loathsome waked me. Round I turned mine eyes, and thus the teacher, At the least 3 times my voice hath called thee, rise, be gone. Let us the opening find where thou mayest pass. I straightway rose. Now day poured down from high, filled all the circuits of the sacred mount, and as we journeyed on our shoulder smote the early ray. I followed, stooping low my forehead, as a man o'ercharged with thought, who bends him to the likeness of an arch that midway spans the flood, and when thus I heard, comes enter here, in tone so soft and mild, as never met the ear of mortal sand. With swan-like wings dispread, and pointing up, who thus had spoken marshalled us along, where each side of the solid masonry the sloping walls retired, then moved his plumes, and fanning us, affirmed that those who mourn are blessed, for that comfort shall be theirs. What aileth thee, that still thou lookest to earth? Began my leader, while the angelic shape a little over us his station took. New vision, I replied, hath raised in me surmising strange and anxious doubts, whereon my sole intent allows no other thought, our room or entrance. Hast thou seen, said he, that old enchantress, her whose wiles alone the spirits o'er us weep for? Hast thou seen how many may free him of her bonds? Enough. Let thy heels spurn the earth, and thy raised ken fix on the lyre, when heaven's eternal king whirls in the rolling spheres. As on his feet the falcon first looks down, and then to the sky turns, and forth stretches eager for the food that woos him thither, so the call I heard, so onward far as the dividing rock gave way, I journeyed till the plain was reached. On the 5th circle, when I had stood at large, a race appeared before me, on the ground all downward, lying prone and weeping sore. My soul hath cleaved to that dust. I heard with sighs so deep that well nigh choked the words. O ye, elect of God, whose penal woes both hope and justice mitigate, direct towards the steep rising our uncertain way. If ye approach secure from this our doom prostration, and would urge your course with speed, see that ye still to rightward keep the brink. So them the bard besought, and such words beyond as some short space in answer came. I noted what remained yet hidden from them. Thence to my liege's eyes, mine eyes I bent, and he forthwith, interpreting their suit, beckoned his glad assent, free then to act, and as pleased me, I drew near, and I took my stand. Dogs, not fireworks, unfortunately. Boo. And took my stand over that shade whose words I late had marked. And Spirit, I said, in whom repentant tears mature that blessed hour when thou with God shalt find acceptance. For a while suspend for me that mightier care. Say who thou wast, why thus ye grovel on your bellies prone, and if in aught ye wish my service there, whence living I am come. He answering spake, the cause why heaven our back toward his coat reverses shalt thou know, but me know first. The successor of Peter, and the name and title of my lineage from that stream that twixt Kivier and Siestra draws his limpid waters through the lowly glen. A month and little more by proof I learned, with what a weight that robe of sovereignty upon his shoulders rests. Who from the mire would guard it, that each other fardel seems but feathers in the balance. Late, alas, was my conversion, but when I became Rome's pastor, I discerned at once the dream and cozenage of life, saw that the heart rested not there, and yet no prouder height lured on the climber. Wherefore of that life no more enamoured in my bosom love of purer being kindled. For till then I was a soul in misery, alienate from God, and covetous of all earthly things. Now, as thou seest, here punished for my doting, such cleansing from the taint of avarice, do spirits coveted need. This mount inflicts no dire penalty, even as our eyes fastened below, nor even to loftier clime were lifted. Thus hath justice levelled us here on the earth, as avarice quenched our love of good, without which no one is working. Thus here justice holds us prisoned, hand and foot, chained down and bound, while heaven's just Lord shall please so long to tarry motionless outstretched. My knees I stooped and would have spoke, but he, ere my beginning, by his ears perceived, I did him reverence, and what cause, said he, hath bowed thee thus? Compunction, I rejoined, an inward awe of your high dignity. Up, he exclaimed, brother, upon thy feet arise, err not. Thy fellow servant I, thine and all others, of one sovereign power. If thou hast ever marked those holy sounds of gospel truth, nor shall be given ill marriage, thou mayest discern the reasons of my speech. Go thy ways now, and linger here no more. Thy tarrying is a let unto the tears, which, when I hasten, that whereof thou speakest, I have on earth a kinswoman, her name Alagia, worthy in herself, so ill, example of our house, corrupt her not. And she is all remaineth of me there. Canto 20. Two more. Ill strives the will, against will more rise that strives. His pleasure therefore to mine own preferred. I drew the sponge, yet thirsty from the wave. Onward I moved, he also onward moved, who led me coasting still whenever place along the rock was vacant, as a man walks near the battlements on narrow wall. For those on the other part who drop by drop rang out their all-infecting malady, too closely press the verge, accursed be thou, inveterate wolf, whose gorge ingluts more prey than every beast beside. It is not filled, so bottomless thy maw. Ye spheres of heaven, to whom there are, as seems, who attribute all change in the mortal state, when is the day of appearing, for whom fate reserves to chase her hence? With wary steps and slow we passed, and I attentive to the shades, whom piteously I heard lament and wail. and missed the wailing one before us heard. Cry out, O blessed Virgin, as a dame in the sharp pangs of childbed, and how poor thou wast, it added, witless that low roof where thou didst lay thy sacred burn down. O good Fabricus, thou didst virtue choose with poverty, before great wealth with vice. The words so pleased me that desire to know the spirit from whose lips they seemed to come did draw me onward. Yet it spake the gift of Nicholas, which on the maidens he bounteous bestowed, to save their youthful prime unblemished. Spirit, who dost speak of deeds so worthy, tell me who thou was, I said, and why thou dost with single voice renew memorial of such praise. That boon vouchsafed haply shall meet reward, if I return to finish the short pilgrimage of life, still speeding to its close on restless wing. I, answered he, will tell thee, not for hell, which thence I look for, but that in thyself grace so exceeding shines before thy time of mortal dissolution. I was root of that ill plant, whose shade such poison sheds over all the Christian land, that seldom thence good fruit is gathered. Vengeance soon should come, hath Ghent and Durry, Lille and Bruges power, and vengeance I of heaven's great judge implore. Hugh Capet was I high, from me descend the Philips and the Louis, of whom France newly is governed, born of one who plied the slaughterous trade at Paris, when the race of kings had vanished, all save one wrapped up in sable weeds. Within my gripe I found the reins of empire and such powers of new acquirement, with full store of friends, that soon the windowed circlet of the crown was girt upon the temples of my son. He, from whose bones the anointed race begins, till the great dower of Provence has removed the stains, and yet obscured our lowly blood. Its sway indeed was narrow, but however it wrought no evil. And there, with force and lies, began its rapine. After for amends, Poitou it seized, Navarre and Gascony to Italy came Charles. And for amends, young Conradine an innocent victim slew, and sent thy angelic teacher back to heaven. Still for amends, I see the time at hand that forth from France invites another Charles to make himself and kindred better known. Unarmed he issues, saving with that lance which the arch traitor tilted with, and that he carries with so home a thrust as rives the bowels of poor Florence. No increase of territory hence, but sins and shame shall be his guerdon, and so much the more as he more lightly deems of such foul wrong. I see the other, who is a prisoner late, has steps on shore, exposing to the mart his daughter whom he bargains for, as do the corsairs for their slaves. O avarice, what canst thou more, who hast subdued our blood, so wholly to thyself they feel no care of their own flesh? To hide with dire guilt past ill and future, lo, the flower de luce enters Alagna, in his vicar Christ himself a captive, and his mockery acted again. Lo, his holy lip the vinegar and gall once more applied, and he twixt living robbers doomed to bleed. Lo, the new prelate, of whose cruelty such violence cannot fill the measure up, with no degree to sanction pushes on into the temple, yet his eager sails. O sovereign master, when shall I rejoice to see the vengeance which thy wrath well pleased in secret silence broods? While daylight lasts, so long what thou didst hear of her, sole spouse of the Great Spirit, and on which thou turnest to me for comment, is the general theme of all our prayers, but when it darkens, then a different strain we utter. Then record Pygmalion, whom his gluttonous thirst of gold made traitor, robber, parricide, the woes of Midas, which his greedy wish ensued, marked for derision to all future times. And the fond Akan, how he stole the prey, that yet he seems by Joshua's ear pursued. Sapphira, who with her husband next we blame and praise the forefeet, with that furious ramp spurned Heliodorus. All the mountain round rings with the infamy of Thracia's king, who slew the Phrygian charge, and last a shout ascends, Declare, O Crassus, for thou knowest the flavour of thy gold. The voice of each, now high, now low, as each his impulse prompts, is led through many a pitch, acute or grave. Therefore not singly I erewhile rehearse that blessedness we tell of in the day. But near me none beside his ascent raised. From him we now had parted, and essayed with utmost efforts to surmount the way, when I did feel, as nodding to its fall, the mountain tremble, whence an icy chill seized on me, as one to death conveyed. So shook not Delos, when Latona there couched to bring forth the twin-born eyes of heaven. Forthwith from every side a shout arose, so vehement, that suddenly my guide drew near and cried, Doubt not while I conduct thee. Glory! All shouted, such the sounds mine ear gathered from those who near me swelled the sounds. Glory in the highest be to God! We stood immovable, suspended, like to those, the shepherd, who first heard in Bethlehem's field that song, till ceased the trembling and the song was ended. Then our hallowed path resumed, eyeing the prostrate shadows, who renewed that custom morning. Never in my breast did ignorance so struggle with desire of knowledge, if my memory do not err, as in that moment, nor through haste dared I to question, nor myself could aught discern. So on I fared in thoughtfulness and dread. Canto 21, and last one for tonight. The natural thirst never quenched but from the well whereof the woman of Samaria craved. Excited, haste along the cumbered path after my guide impelled, and pity moved my bosom for the vengeful deed, though just. When lo, even as Luke relates that Christ appeared unto the two upon their way, new risen from his vaulted grave, to us a shade appeared, and after us approached, contemplating the crowd beneath its feet. We were not aware of it, so first it spake, saying, God give you peace, my brethren. Then suddenly we turn, and Virgil such salute as fitted the kind greeting gave, and cried, Peace in the blessed council be thy lot, awarded by that righteous court, which me to everlasting banishment exiles. How? He exclaimed, nor from his speed meanwhile desisting. If that ye be spirits, whom God vouchsafes not room above, who up the height has been thus far your guide? To whom the bard, if thou observe the tokens which this man traced by the finger of the angel bears, 'tis plain in the kingdom of the just he needs must share. But since she whose wheel spins day and night, for him not yet had drawn that yarn, which on the fatal distaff piled, clother apportions to each white that breathes her soul. That sister is to mine and thine, not of herself could mount, for not like ours her ken. Whence I, from forth the ample gulf of hell, was taken to lead him, and will lead and will lead far as my law avails. But if thou know, instruct us for what cause the mount awhile the shook and trembled, wherefore all at once seemed shouting, even from his wave-washed foot. That questioning so tallied with my wish, the thirst did feel abatement of its edge, even from acceptance. He forthwith replied, in his devotion naught irregular, this mount can witness, or be by punctual rule, unsanctioned here from every change exempt. Other than that, which heaven in itself doth of itself receive no influence, can reach us. Tempest none, shower, hail, or snow, hoar frost or dewy moistness higher falls than that brief scale of threefold steps. Thick clouds nor scudding rack are ever seen. Swift glance ne'er lightens, nor Thaumatean iris gleams. That yonder often shift on each side heaven, vapour or dust doth never mount above the highest of the trinal stairs, whereupon Peter's vice regent stands, lower perchance with various motion rocked, trembles the soil. But here, through wind in earth's deep hollow pent, I know not how, yet never tremble. Then trembles when any spirit feels itself so purified that it may rise, or move for rising, and such loud acclaim ensues. Purification by the will alone is proved, that free to change society seizes the soul rejoicing in her will. Desire of bliss is present from the first, but strong propension hinders. To that wish by the just ordinance of heaven opposed, propension now is eager to fulfill the allotted torment, as erewhile to sin. And I, who in this punishment had lain 500 years and more, but now have felt free wish for happier clime. Therefore thou feltest the mountain tremble, and the spirits devout hardest of over all his limits utter praise to that liege lord, whom I entreat their joy to hasten. Thus he spake, and since the drought is grateful ever as the thirst is keen, no words may speak my fullness of content. Now, said the instructor sage, I see the net that takes ye here, and how the toils are loosed, why rocks the mountain, and why ye rejoice. Vouchsafe from thy lips, I next may learn, who on earth thou wast, and wherefore here so many an age wert prostrate. In that time when the good Titus, with heaven's king to help, avenged those piteous geishas, whence the blood by Judas' soul did issue, with the same name most lasting and most honoured there was I abundantly renowned. The shade replied, not yet with faith endued, so passing sweet my vocal spirit from Tolosa Rome to herself drew me, where I merited a myrtle garland to enwreathe my brow. Satius they name me still, of Thebes I sang, and next of great Achilles. But in the way fell with the second burthen of my flame those sparkles were the seeds of which I derived from the bright fountain of celestial fire that feeds unnumbered lamps, the song I mean, which sounds Aeneas's wanderings with the breast I hung at the nurse from whom my veins drank inspiration, whose authority was ever sacred with me. To have lived cavil with the Mantuan, I would bide the revolution of another sun beyond my sated years in banishment. The Mantuan, who he heard him, turned to me, and holding silence by his countenance, enjoined my silence, but the power which wills bears not supreme control. Laughter and tears follow so closely on the passion prompts them. They wait not for the motions of the will in nature's most sincere. I did but smile, as one who winks, and thereupon the shade broke off, and peered into mine eyes, where best our looks interpret. So to good event mayest thou conduct such great emprise, he cried. Say why across thy visage beamed but now the lightning of a smile? On either part now I am straitened, the one conjures me speak, the other to silence binds me. Whence a sigh I utter, and the sigh is heard. Speak on, the teacher cried, and do not fear to speak, but tell him what so earnestly he asks. Whereon I thus, perchance, O ancient spirit, thou marvellest at my smiling. There is room for yet more wonder. He who guides my ken on high, he is that Mantuan, led by whom thou didst presume of men and gods to sing. If other cause thou deemest for which I smiled, leave it as not the true one, and believe those words thou speakest of him indeed the cause. Now down he bent to embrace my teacher's feet, but he forbade him. Brother, do it not. Thou art a shadow, and beholdest a shade his rising and thus. Now hast thou proved the force and ardour of love I bear thee, when I forget we are but things of air, and as a substance treat an empty shade. There we go. That has been 6 cantos for today, and we'll do another 6 next week, as long as nothing gets in the way and I actually turn up and don't forget and all that kind of stuff. There we go. As I say, hopefully next week we'll be back for another 6. So 22 to something. I can do maths. 22, 23, 24, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. 22 to 27 we'll read. And then we shall get on to the last section for the last week. And then I need to think of what to do next. Thinking under perfect mind for a one-shot. Anyway, enough of that. Go find me on social media and all that. All links below. It's October tomorrow, October 1st, and it will be Mab's Drawloween. I'll get that right one day over on Instagram, and I shall be posting daily random sketches in relation to that. Some will be alright, some will be crap, mostly crap probably, because you meant to draw a picture a day. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, go check that out. As I say, links and everything below. I can't remember what my Instagram handle is. Possibly Dr. Hale does, I think. Anyway, I'll try and put the links below that. If not, fine. You'll see it all on Threads and BlueSky and all that as well. I'll post them all there. And hopefully tomorrow, at some point, I'll also record the next podcast episode on what is magic and where did that K come from. So yeah, we'll look forward to that. I'll probably record that and release that hopefully tomorrow. We'll see. See how much time I've got. I've got lots of things to do. Other than that, thank you very much, and I'll see you next week for part 5.